time. Okay, welcome everyone. Let's go ahead and call the April 4th, 2024 Historic Preservation Commission meeting to order. Can I have the roll, please?
Commissioner Sibley. Here. Commissioner Fenster.
Here.
Chairman Lane.
Here.
Commissioner Barner.
Here.
Councilmember Mayor Peck.
Here.
Thank you.
Great. So we do have a quorum. We'll continue. So our next item on the agenda is approval of the January 4th HPC meeting minutes. Are there any corrections or comments on those minutes? And if not, I'll entertain a motion. Yep. What?
Is there one change I gave to Maria?
That was on the retreat, though, no? Or not?
It was in the minutes.
All right. Okay. Well,
Page 2 of the minutes.
go ahead and hit your mic there, Commissioner. Just
Page 2.
where is the? Okay. Did they change everything on this? There it is. Okay. Thank you.
Page 2 of the minutes, line 4. It says the Longmont Symphony is buying 3 tables, and it should say the Kanemoto family is buying 3 tables.
Thank you.
That's my only change.
Okay. Any other corrections? Otherwise, I'd entertain a motion to approve as corrected. Okay. Moved by Commissioner Fenster, seconded by Commissioner Sibley. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None. So the minutes of the January 4 are approved as corrected by Commissioner Barnett. All right. Next, we have approval of our March 16, 2024 retreat minutes. And are there any corrections or comments on those? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
And I'll second.
Okay. Moved once again by Commissioner Fenster and seconded by Commissioner Sibley. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? None. The March 16 retreat minutes are approved. Thank you. Okay. Report from the chair. The only thing I have to communicate to the commission, I just want to make you aware that the Longmont Times Call did reach out to me for some comment on the Tower of Compassion coming back to this commission, and just looking for some clarification of what exactly we were doing with it. So we just explained that we're considering the local landmark designation and, you know, some of the benefits associated with that. So I presume there will be some sort of article coming out. But just want to make you aware that I did speak to that issue publicly. Okay. Next we have communications from HPC staff liaison.
Good evening, members of the commission and Chairman Lane. Yes, the Times Call also reached out to the city on that particular topic as well. So I know our communications team was pulling together some information since they had some park-specific questions as well. So yeah, I do anticipate there being an article in the near future, very near future, about that. So related, I have a few items on my agenda. First, we do have a few guests with us this evening who will be speaking under the new business section. We have Lindsay Flewellen. I will always botch your name. I do apologize. Okay, from History Colorado, who is going to talk to us a bit about the certified local governments and kind of give us a little overview and update on those things. We'll talk a little bit about our quadrennial CLG review that we'll be going through this year. We also have Ozzie Tarrant and Carrie Sheehan from the city who will give you an update on the Firehouse Arts Center restoration work. So related to the Tower of Compassion, last Tuesday at their city council meeting, city council did direct staff to pursue landmark designation for the Tower of Compassion. So Staff will be working on that in the next month or so. So I would anticipate, realistically, we'll probably bring that to the commission for consideration at the June meeting. We'll shoot for the May meeting, but just in the interest of managing expectations and being realistic about workloads, I think June's probably realistic. May is optimistic, but we'll see what we can do for that. But we are going to be getting that ball rolling. Few other items. Historic Preservation Month in May. A proclamation will be made at the April 30th City Council study session meeting. So I would invite and encourage members of the commission to be there for that. So there will be that official announcement of Historic Preservation Month, doing it April 30th, so we can get ahead of the full month. Boards and commissions, we have an April 19th deadline for the boards and commissions applications. Currently, we do have one applicant in the queue, so once that deadline closes, once that deadline is passed, Maria and I will see what we have in terms of applications and be in contact with Commissioner Lane to discuss interview process and getting that ball rolling. The interviews need to be done during the month of May, since council takes it up in June. Let's see, I know Historic Eastside Neighborhood Association conservation overlay is a topic that this commission has been interested in. We will be providing an overview of the purpose, process, and status to City Council at their April 23rd meeting as a general business item. Other items I have this evening are just an update on the survey plan. I've been in communication with Josh O'Hava, our consultant on that. He's working on the map updates and consolidating comments. The background write-up is in progress. I should have a draft in the next week or two, so I should have something in the next packet, hopefully, for this commission to review possibly. And then they are anticipating getting out for their windshield survey, kind of ground truth a lot of the information, probably in May sometime. So just trying to do some schedule coordination on that. So that's where we are on that one. So there is movement on that particular project. So that's what I've got for today. So I do have another item under new business, but then I will discuss that item then.
Okay, great. Thank you. Commissioners, any questions for staff at this point? Thanks for a thorough rundown. You got everything on my list, so I appreciate that. Okay, at this point, we have public invited to be heard. So if there's anyone who's not a guest, I don't see anyone in the audience who's not already been mentioned as a guest. So I will go ahead and close the public invited to be heard. We do not have any items for public hearing. And so then we can move on to new business. And the first item on that list is an update on the Firehouse Arts Center.
All right, good evening again. I'm going to bring Ozzy Taryn and Carrie Sheehan. They are special projects coordinators, and I will always get your titles confused, but they handle all of our CIP projects and special projects and a lot of that. So they are going to talk to you a bit about what's going on at the Firehouse Arts Center.
All right, thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. Now it's on. Now you can hear me. As Jennifer said, my name is Carrie Sheehan, and this is Ozzy Taryn, and we are both project managers for the city. Ozzy also plays a role in the building department as well. And we both just finished up the Callahan House restoration, which is why we got this project as well. Just again, we had that experience. So we're here today just to talk about the rehabilitation and restoration of the historic firehouse. So let's see. There we go. So what we're doing for this project is focusing on the exterior of the building. All the work that is going to be done is going to be to maintain the building's 1907 appearance. And that's obviously when the building was originally built. And we're also going to, which I know is important to you all, we're going to maintain compliance with the Secretary of the Interior standards for the treatment of historic properties. So I want to make sure that you are aware of that. First, we just want to go through a little bit of the scope of work. All of the work is actually, like I said, is going to be done on the exterior. One of the highest priorities for us is the window frames. If you have driven by or you could just look at these pictures, these are in desperate need of attention. So what our plan is to repair, restore, and rebuild, if necessary, the existing window frames and sashes. If there are some glazing that may need to be replaced because it is broken, so we will do that as needed. Install new weather stripping, replace the weight ropes in the windows, and then get it wrapped up with wood prep and painting. I know that someone was concerned about the bid that we had put out that did mention the replacement of the windows. That is not our goal at all for this project, but if there is a case where we may need to replace a window, we'll bring that to you first. I was hoping to have something to show you, but we don't have bids back yet. But again, last resort, and I think that by putting that in our bid is also going to help us weed out contractors, because anybody who has done this historic work before will know that that is not something we should be doing. So I think that's going to help us out with contractors as well. Do you have anything else on the windows?
No, that's it.
Okay. The next thing that is on our list is the exterior doors on the north and the west side. Then this work is just to repair or replace the deteriorated wood and just removing the hardware and repainting. And when I talk about repainting it throughout this, it's all repainting to the same color that it is right now, so we're not changing colors. The next thing we're going to do is the exterior trim on the north and west sides. The crown molding on both facades will be rehabilitated. It will not be replaced. It's either rehabilitated, restored, and then reprimed and painted. We're going to take a look at the deck also. Since it is a newer deck, it's been only about 15-ish years old. It's in pretty good shape. So the plan for this is just to scrape the paint on the deck, the balusters, the railings, and then on the west facade as well, and then treat it and then repaint it. So again, just get it cleaned up so that it looks a little bit nicer than we've got right here. The Parge coating, which is on the west side of the building, that white, kind of that white paint, is peeling and cracking. So what we are going to do here is remove the existing coating and then replace it with two coatings that do have fiberglass in it, and then repaint it again that existing color. One complaint that we do get from staff, and I know this is a concern of yours also, is the lighting around this building. Since there were no fixtures on the original building, I've done a lot of research on this. There were no fixtures on the original building. What we tried to do was come up with a fixture that was reminiscent of the time period. So that is this kind of that fixture that we've got there. We're going to add two fixtures to the doorways, and I tried to put them in here just so that you can see them, one on either side of the doorway on the west and one on either side on the north. And then the single door on the west side would get one fixture. Again, just to provide a lot of safety lighting, security lighting for that area. Next is the basement stairwell. Access there is pretty dangerous. So what the plan here is to add a stairwell, a handrail to the stairwell, so that'll make it safe for staff to go down there. And then we're also going to replace the existing light fixtures, which are kind of askew in there and don't really match anything, with some wall packs. They will be an LED fixture with motion sensors. And they are kind of they'll be behind the gate, so you won't see them, but they will provide that safety lighting for our staff. What we are going to do, as well as there, if I don't know if you've been there recently, but they've got a corrugated metal at the bottom of the stairway with a gate. So what the plan is to remove that and then put an expanded metal gate under the porch upstairs, so that it keeps people from going in there who aren't supposed to be in there, but there will be a locked gate for staff to get in and out. What we will do is put it just behind the meters so that we don't have to worry about access to those meters. Installing new gutters on the west and the north side is going to be really important for the work that we're doing, just because the water that is dripping off the roof is causing deterioration to the trim that's already existing. So the plan is, again, to put a gutter on both sides. It'll be behind the trim, so you won't see it from the street, or you won't see it from the sidewalk level either. And it'll tie into the existing downspout and gutter that is on the south side of the building. And I just included this. You guys, I'm sure, know about this already. They're doing the improvements on Kaufman Street. So we're not doing any work on the sidewalk because they are going to take care of it as part of this project. And finally is our schedule. So we did issue that RFP on March 12th, and we have our proposals coming back on April 9th, so that's next Tuesday. We've had a lot of interest. I think we had 6 or 7 contractors who did come to the pre-bid, so that was encouraging. So that's what I have. I don't know if you guys have any questions.
Thank you. Yeah. Are there any questions from commissioners? No? Okay.
You made it so
I have
easy.
quite a
Okay,
few,
good. Go
actually.
ahead.
I guess I'd like to start with just a procedural question, which might be more of a staff question. So if this were a privately owned property, this proposal would have come before us as a board to obtain a certificate of appropriateness for this work, no?
I think typically we would classify this work more as restoration and rehabilitation, since they aren't making substantial alterations to the building. The window work, if the windows were to be replaced, we absolutely would be bringing them to you. The work is typically what I would consider to be minor rehabilitation, restoration work that doesn't substantially change the exterior of the structure. There is the question of the light fixtures. I don't know if that's something that the commission would want to see. We could definitely bring those in. Typically, light fixtures are not the kind of thing that I've seen go to commissions in the past. But if that's something the commission would be interested in seeing, we can definitely do that. The gutters, since they would not be visible and they would be kind of integrated into the existing kind of roofing system, and behind the trim, it would, because it's not visible, I would treat that typically as something along the lines of a roof replacement for hail damage, just because the visibility is not there and it's being done to prevent further damage to the historic trim work. Obviously, if the commission has a different direction that they would prefer staff to take, I'm willing to entertain that.
Yeah, okay. I have, well, if light fixtures, I think if it were a question of, for example, replacing the light fixture that's by the walk door right now on the west side of the building with something as proposed, that's pretty minor. Mm-hmm. Adding 4 brand new light fixtures in places that didn't exist before gets a little stickier, because that would change the perception of the building. So I have a little tiny bit of heartburn over that. The gutter thing I don't entirely understand, because so you're talking about guttering the building as itself is parapets on 3 sides and drains to the south. So you're talking about trying to basically gutter the little bitty roof that is over the cornice trim on the north and west side. Basically what you see here, the white at the very top, sort of steps down, because it's not guttering. I mean, there's a roof, there's a parapet, so the water drains.
What we have seen in there, the parapet is just really shallow.
Okay.
And so water keeps pouring out. And so
For,
we wanna-
over the roof?
Correct, over the parapet. It's not really intended for the trim. It's actually intended for the actual roof. Any of that excess water, especially when we get quite a bit of downpour, is just again to help with the building and maintain its longevity.
Right. So when it ties back into the downspout on the southwest corner, it's not going to be, even that tie-in is not going to be visible then, right? Because what I would want to avoid is some little stub of a gutter that just sort of breaks out across the building and dumps it weirdly into the downspout, right?
I would have to look on the actual west side if you would.
Sorry.
It's one of those like devil in the details, right?
Because there is a gutter on the south side already.
Correct,
So
right.
the plan is to tie into the gutter and the downspout at the location that they already are.
Right. So the gutter is above this cornice trim detail. It's at the parapet level, basically.
Correct.
Okay. Okay. I'm glad you noted the storm the windows not being replaced. I would say so, and this is sort of a hot button because we just went through a pretty substantial process with a particular landmarked home owned by an individual here, and based on what at least I can see from walking around the building, if this were a homeowner who came in and said, I want to replace these windows, we would say, no, you're not allowed to. That these need to be repaired based on the standard. So I would say there ought to be a exceedingly high bar for replacement, especially this being a city-owned property, because obviously the optics of the city replacing a window in their own building when they just refused someone else's ability to do that as a private citizen would be a bad look.
And I was going to say, we were completely aware of that, that discussion with that homeowner. What we did at Callahan House, because we did have, the windows came out and they just fell apart. We rebuilt them using the same material in the same style. So that is what the plan is.
Yeah, yeah, that's what
Yeah.
we would expect and see. And based on what I've seen, I think that seems entirely plausible, right? Okay. There's another note in the addendum that talks about replacing broken glass with a U factor of 0.32, and I wondered how that's going to happen. If you're replacing single pane glass, aren't you just going to need to replace single pane glass, or is there places where there are insulated glass panels in there?
So with that, we wanted to. There's some areas that have this wire mesh, and those
Right.
are the areas that, if we needed to, we would do it with that 0.32.
Okay.
But most of those historical windows that are actually shown on the pictures, it would be just single pane.
Right,
where
so-
we wouldn't be able to accomplish that.
Correct. Right. So I just want to make sure we
Correct.
weren't ripping apart windows and trying to
No,
stuff
no,
a
no,
double
No.
insulated glass panel. Okay. Thank you. There was also a question in the addendum about, and you mentioned this, so I just want to clarify. In the addendum, it says clarify whether the replacement of the crown trim above the west and north doors would be acceptable, and the response was yes, using a species match, but I would tend to say no, that it's not. Again, the material should be repaired, not replaced, based on its condition, unless it's really mush.
That's what it is. Just in case we take it down and it falls apart, then it
Okay.
needs to be replaced with
Okay.
the like.
Okay. Okay. And
But
so-
otherwise, it's just, it's
Right.
restoring what is there.
Right. I just want to
Yep,
make sure that
of
we're
course.
here. We're higher. Again, this is a city-owned building. We need to be, adhering to the highest of standards, right? Because we hold other people to them. We ought not to be too lax in, oh, well, yeah, sure, if you want, if it's easier or it's cost effective to replace it, that's not enough, right? We want to make sure that we're emphasizing those standards. Okay. Okay, so I think I'm in pretty good shape, other than I still have a little heartburn over the added lighting fixtures, and wonder if there's not a way to add some additional lumens to those entry areas without installing new light fixtures that really sort of look historic-y, which is the kind of thing we try to avoid here in terms of, misrepresenting how a building used to look, right? Because again, I think probably if someone else came here as a private homeowner or building owner and wanted to do this, I feel like there would be some pushback, at least from me.
And we don't have to put those light fixtures in.
Yeah.
We don't need to put all of those light fixtures in. Again, looking back historically, that was the design back in the 1900s, was the lights on either side. We don't have to do that. Just hearing comments from staff is that they want as much lighting out there as possible. Again, that sidewalk could get dark, especially with those little jelly jars that they have out there.
Right, and I can see that
Yeah.
100%, right? But maybe, I guess I would encourage you to look at an alternate solution that maybe finds a way to add lighting in a way that maybe just isn't visible from the street. Like, I think it would be okay to add, an LED fixture in the cornice somewhere, at the lower trim, like in the
Shine
door
down.
openings, right? That just shine down and lit and wasn't visible from the street. And so that the view, when you look at an old, because you're going to see this historic picture, right? You've got one right up on the screen. You look at that picture, there's no light fixture there, right? You can light it without having that light fixture added. And I think that would be a much better scenario. That would be my recommendation.
We can surely look at that.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I
of
do
course.
appreciate you listening to all of my detailed comments. Great. All right, now I've opened the floodgates here. Sorry. Let's see. Commissioner Barnard, let me get to you first. Here, go ahead.
I'm just curious, because we were talking about it. In the old picture, in between the two fire trucks, straight up, is a triangular thing.
It's a bell.
Is that a bell?
It's a little bell.
And that was for ringing the bell. Okay?
Yeah.
Letting them know there was a fire. Or somebody rang the bell and everybody ran into the fire trucks. Okay. It looked like a bell.
Yeah.
I was wondering if it was a bell, or maybe you could put a bell up there with a light in it. So it would look like the old picture of the bell, but it would throw light.
We can see what we can find.
Just an idea.
Yep.
Yeah,
I'd say
those
if we're
right.
exploring other options, that certainly we could add that too.
I think that's a creative way of saying, looking at historic photos and saying, is there a way to do this in such a way that would represent more accurately what's happening while still acknowledging that, an incandescent 60-watt bulb is not sufficient for today's world. Right. Let's see. Mayor Peck, did you have a comment?
I was
Yep.
going to say exactly what Commissioner.
Okay. All right. Well, there you go. There's some energy over there. All right. Well, I very much appreciate that. Any other comments or questions? No? Okay. Thank you for coming down here and bringing all this to our attention and again, allowing me to voice some thoughts.
Yeah, totally. And if you guys run into any questions or any problems, just give us a yell. We're always around.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay. Next we have CLG update.
Idea of the halogen. I love the idea of the halogen. I should have said that.
Well, hi everybody. I'm Lindsay Flewelling, the Certified Local Government Coordinator at History Colorado, and thanks for having me. I was just going to say a few words about the CLG program and some of the benefits and responsibilities, and then a couple of other things that we have going on at History Colorado currently. But essentially, the Certified Local Government Program is a partnership program between the National Park Service, the State Historic Preservation Office, and your local government preservation program. So the certified part is that the Park Service and the SHPO have certified your program as fitting in with federal and state parameters for preservation programs. My understanding is that Longmont was our first CLG in Colorado since 1985. There are currently 67 CLGs in the state, and then about 2,100 nationwide. So we have a pretty robust program for a state of our size. For the benefits of the CLG program, the big one is the CLG grants. The State Historic Preservation Office has some federal funding that we're required to subgrant to our certified local governments each year. So we, since we have the State Historical Fund to provide a match, are able to offer no match grants to our CLGs. It's for projects of up to $25,000 for things that benefit your local preservation program, like preservation planning, surveys, design guidelines, education outreach projects, and things like that, historic context studies, anything that's like directly beneficial to your sort of administration of your preservation program. Those are due every January, like 15th or the nearest Monday or Tuesday, if it falls on like the day after Martin Luther King Day. But the applications for that come out in October, and I'm always happy to talk about potential grant projects if you have any ideas. CLGs are also able to apply for National Park Service grants for historic preservation. They have some survey and like nominations grants that they offer, but they also offer physical construction grants as well. It's just a little bit more of an intimidating application process, unfortunately. Grants.gov is not the most user-friendly, but they do have great programs that CLGs can apply for. And then the other big benefit is that your locally landmarked properties and contributing properties in local historic districts are able to get the state residential and commercial tax credits, which are currently at 25% of qualified rehabilitation expenditures. And the residential tax credits Jennifer reviews, so your property owners can just go to her for a sort of a one-stop shop on those tax credits, and then any commercial properties would come through our office, and Sarah Kappel's our tax credit and incentive specialist. And then, of course, they're also eligible for state historical fund grants if the property has a public benefit. Along with that, there's access to training. We have scholarships for Saving Places and NAPC Forum and some other educational opportunities every year. And then I also do a monthly webinar series on different topics in preservation. I think the one this month is on defensible decision making and commission member ethics, and then we'll have one next month on Colorado Main Streets and CLGs. And then the one in June is a discussion, sort of an open discussion among CLGs for LGBTQ plus resources in your local area. So if any of those come to mind, it would be great to have sort of dialogue how to approach those resources, especially because they can be kind of hidden in your local communities. As far as responsibility goes, the main responsibility is to enforce your own local preservation ordinance, and that's a big part of my job, is to just make sure the local governments are following their own ordinances. Establish and maintain a commission, you don't have a problem with that. Send meeting minutes to the State Historic Preservation Office. You guys are some of the best at that, and Maria does a great job. Really enjoy reading your minutes. Provide for adequate public participation, which I know you generally have pretty active public participation. Maintain a system of survey and inventory. One person from your commission needs to attend one training at least once per year, so going to Saving Places or any of the webinars and things like that. Submit an annual report, which Jennifer does every November. And then every 4 years is your CLG evaluation. So what that entails is me attending a commission meeting. After this, I'll schedule a staff meeting, and we'll just talk about the preservation program and sort of the direction that you're going for the next couple of years. And then I also review all of the minutes that we have on file for the last 4 years, any annual reports and other things that we have on file at History Colorado. So with that, that's essentially the benefits and responsibilities for the CLG program. And then I also wanted to mention our Colorado Heritage for All program that we have going on right now. The goal is to get 150 sites on the state register that are associated with underrepresented communities by Colorado's 150th birthday, which is in 2026, so very soon. But I know that our state and national register historian who actually grew up in Longmont, so he's pretty familiar with the different resources here. Yeah, that's great. So he's coming by next week. But yeah, he is really interested in the Tower of Compassion and the Buddhist temple as resources associated with underrepresented communities. And then I personally am really interested in knowing if there's any resources associated with the sugar mill workers. We talked to Boulder County staff, and they weren't aware of any like neighborhoods or other resources other than the actual sugar like mill site. But if there is anything, I know like both Greeley and Fort Morgan and then also Montrose have like residential neighborhoods that were associated with workers. So I just think it's really cool. I can see these patterns across the state, and I just get excited about that. So but yeah, I'm here as a resource for you. If you ever need anything, feel free to reach out or have Jennifer reach out, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you. Any questions from commissioners? Yeah, Mayor Peck.
Thank you. I'm really happy that you mentioned the sugar mill area. And probably the commissioners can answer this since I'm pretty new to all of this. Is the exterior of those buildings considered historical? I know the interior is going to be redone, but
I would think so. I mean, I've only
right.
Seen it driving by and stuff, but you could certainly have a determination of eligibility on those from our state and national register historian.
Okay, that might be worth looking at. Thank you.
I'm sure he would be excited to do anything in Longmont.
Good.
Thanks. Commissioner Barnard.
Yeah, I mean, this has come up a couple of times, and in the report that we got the last time there was a consultant here to talk about the sugar mill, I was left with the impression that we didn't have much say about what was going on with the sugar mill, and somebody else might have gotten a different impression. But it was more a question of informing us as to what the current situation was. For instance, it went on the ballot, and we didn't have, nobody came to us and said, "What do you think of the ballot measure?" And that would have proceeded along without any comment from us. So I would be happy. In fact, I've asked about it several times. We have, in most recent meetings, I asked when we could expect an update to kind of bring us current, not for approval because I thought we didn't have that, but more for just what's going on and give us an idea. So I think, Mayor, my answer is that we can go back to the minutes and look, but we've been told that we're not involved in any approval for sugar mill.
It's in your growth area, but not actually in city limits, is my
Correct.
understanding.
Right.
That's correct. It is that general area is part of an unincorporated Boulder County enclave. So there are some intergovernmental coordination factors in there, but I can touch base with Tony Chacon, who's our redevelopment manager, who's handling that particular project. It's for lack of a better way of putting it, there are a lot of cats that have to be herded on that project. So as a city of Longmont, because it's not under our jurisdiction, we really can't. And it's not under our ownership, but most importantly, it's not under our jurisdiction. We really can't go out and proactively landmark it until it's in our jurisdiction, basically. But based on my conversation with Boulder County staff, they're interested in learning more about the history of the sugar mill. So if that's something you wanted to kind of collaborate with them on, I think that might be beneficial to both places.
I think that there's a lot of history online of the sugar mill, and because and I think Tony's got a boatload of stuff that because when he presented to us, he gave us a lot of the history of it. But,
Okay.
you know, if we can do anything, I'm sure we're all interested in the project. And for many of us, it abuts our neighborhoods. So we're concerned about what happens there. But I
Right.
don't think, that's as private citizens, I don't think is, you know, and I think Jennifer's clarified that it's not within our jurisdiction.
Right.
Right. Now, having said that, there has been sort of a long-standing sort of courtesy information passing through. So as projects develop, maybe start making their way through the city and into a planning commission hearing or something of that nature, then, you know, it can be appropriate to reach out, get you know, Tony or someone else to make a little presentation, give us an update. I mean, I think that's sort of just a courtesy, and I think we'd like to be extended that courtesy at any opportunity, right? At any appropriate opportunity, right?
Yeah, I would say that as there is movement on those properties, we would definitely, I would definitely coordinate with Tony and his staff. Tony's office is next door to mine, so coordination is pretty easy. I would definitely, you know, coordinate with him to get him or the appropriate person here to provide an update and get any feedback that you might have.
Yeah, thank you. Let's see, Commissioner Fenster.
Yeah, who does have jurisdiction
It's in
over Sugar Mill?
unincorporated Boulder County, so as a government entity, they would be the ones who have oversight.
So it is the Boulder County government? I assume they realize that they have jurisdiction?
They do.
Yeah.
It's one of a number of unincorporated county enclaves within the city of Longmont or within the Longmont planning area, and we do have an intergovernmental agreement with Boulder County that addresses enclaves, and you know, basically we're encouraged to annex them as feasible.
Have they done anything to exercise that jurisdiction? In other words, who is managing that particular physical plant?
It's under private ownership, so.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, these are privately owned. These are privately owned properties. Hence my comment about hurting a lot of cats, because there are actually multiple owners within this area. So, so it's under the jurisdiction of Boulder County, but it's under the ownership of private entities.
Have they indicated that they want to redevelop it, or on the other hand, would they be
yes.
interested in donating it?
There are long-standing active discussions about redevelopment of these properties, rehabilitation, adaptive reuse, just trying to figure out a use that makes sense. So there are ongoing discussions that have been happening for several years now. So it's very much a long-term redevelopment planning process.
To the extent that you know, have any of them involved the historic preservation of the physical plant itself?
There are definitely discussions about preservation of the exteriors of the properties. To what extent, I'm not 100% certain. I know there is a desire to maintain that character, but there are some contamination issues they have to deal with as well. So it's a very multifaceted property and redevelopment endeavor. But currently it's been a lot of behind the scenes work for the last several years. So it's we have a redevelopment manager who is very actively involved and engaged with those property owners in terms of trying to figure out, financing strategies and, redevelopment strategies and figuring out users and, brownfields remediation and all of that. So there are quite a few layers to that particular property. And it's definitely being worked through.
It's not at risk of being demolished, is it?
Not to my knowledge.
Ah, who would know?
I mean, I haven't seen any referrals that have come through. So it's a discussion that we'd be aware of. But at this point, I'm not aware of any risks at this point.
Boulder County also automatically reviews any properties that are proposed to be demolished that are 50 years of age or older.
We have the
So,
same reviews
Oh,
as well.
okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay.
so it wouldn't just happen overnight or anything.
Yeah, there's definitely a process. There are many different processes underway at this point.
Thank you. I had a couple of small questions. You mentioned the webinars. Is there a way we can get that link passed on so that we can just all of you?
I do apologize. I thought I did not realize you weren't on the mailing list, so I will
Okay.
make sure I get those forwarded to you.
Great, thank you. And then my ears perked up quite substantially when you started talking about no-match grants for things like preservation plans and surveys and things. So we absolutely have, goals and aspirations here to, we're working on a survey plan right now. Then we'll need to follow up that plan with surveying,
Right.
and documentation, and then hopefully bigger picture goal, a preservation plan, for the city that could fall in line with the rest of the master plans that are here. So all the grants you're talking about, what did I hear a dollar amount? Was that 25?
It's 25,000. So
yeah.
I would say if you're certainly welcome to apply for the CLG grants for a preservation plan, but cost
yeah.
level, state historical fund might be more
Right.
appropriate because even though they require a match, they can cover, a larger dollar amount.
Right, but that amount would be a good amount for surveying if we identified. If we can get if the survey plan can get completed in a time, third quarter or something like that of this year, and we can identify, our surveying priorities, and then have a grant application in January to fund the continuing movement of that plan, that would seem like a pretty good.
Yeah, that would be great. And certainly
match.
in your
Yeah.
grant application, right, our number one priority was this project. And hopefully your consultant can also kind of break up projects into that like $25,000 bite-size amount to make it logical for the grant.
Right. Perfect. Great. Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Are you gonna send the webinars to everybody?
I'll get it sent to everyone, and
That's what I meant. If I wasn't clear about that, that was my intention. Sorry.
Okay, great. Thanks for having me.
All right. Thank you. Okay. And then last item of new business would be a discussion about solar panels as they relate to sustainability in historic preservation.
yeah. So this was an item I talked with Chairman Lane about. We had a proposal. I had an inquiry last month from a homeowner who was interested in doing a solar roofing system on an accessory building in their property. They've since decided not to do that and just do a standard roof, just do a regular re-roof. But given the discussion topics at Saving Places conference this year, given that I don't think that's going to be the first time that we're going to have such a request, there's an increasing push for sustainability for renewable resources. I wanted to just, I don't want to say plant the seed, but start the discussion among the commission as far as if we get these requests in, how do you prefer to handle them? Because we don't have anything in our code specifically, and we don't have our own guidelines. So I included some sustainability guidelines from the Secretary of Interior relating to sustainability with a section on solar panels in your packet for this month. Really to provoke some thoughts, as it were, like if it's the opinion that this commission should just follow those Secretary of Interior guidelines, do we want to develop our own? I think one of the interesting, and I don't want to say challenges, but one of the interesting features is that there's so many new products coming out now. So it's not just the, big slab sitting on your roof, but what I've seen from City of Denver, from the Secretary of Interior Standards, from a few other places is typically the regulation of the panels has more to do with the location and the projection, as it were, on the roof, whether or not it's visible from the street. So that's really something I just wanted to bring to the commission's attention and just have some discussion about and get some feedback.
Great, thank you. Commissioners, any thoughts or additional questions? Right. Commissioner Barnett?
Just because I don't believe in reinventing wheels, I'd be very comfortable if we wanted maybe have a presentation on the Secretary of the Interior's guidelines, and then after the presentation would be supportive of a motion to use them going forward. If that's something that the staff thinks would be a good idea to have on record, rather, I think the upside of that is rather than waiting until somebody comes in before us, and then it looks like we're kind of, guessing what we're supposed to do.
Yeah, that's a good point. Commissioner Fenster?
Yeah, I would be interested in our providing some guidelines in advance by way of encouraging the use with those historic preservation related guidelines. In other words, I would love to see us do something affirmative which accomplishes both the historic preservation objective and the use objectives.
Okay. Commissioner Sibley?
Yep. I don't really have a whole lot to add to that, other than the fact that yes, I'm like in total support. I feel like getting sustainable energy resources integrated in, that's great. So I'm glad to see this topic coming up. So that was it.
Yeah. So I'm wondering. I'm also in favor of keeping things simple. If we've got guidelines from the Interior Secretary standards, which we seem to have, then that's how we judge everything else, right? So, but perhaps it's worth creating, for lack of a better word, a little flyer, right? Like when sometimes in building departments and probably even planning departments, you have little 1-page or 2-page diagrams that sort of illustrate commonly encountered issues, right? Just for everyone's clarity. If we had instead of making somebody go find this, right? If we had the material that's already existed just kind of combined into a 2 or 3 page little handout that you can send an email to somebody who says, I'm thinking about solar, and you could shoot them that little document and say, this is what the Secretary of Interior standards say about it. So if you need to comply with that, and the HPC would end up being the judge if it even needs to come here. So for example, there's a building like the firehouse. I guess the parapets are really small on that. I didn't know that. But a building like the firehouse, a downtown building with parapets and a flat roof, and somebody wants to put a couple solar panels up there, and you can't even see them from any place. I don't know that needs to come to the commission, right? That's a staff level decision. Somebody wants to slap solar panels on an awning or something like was in one of those pictures in the handout, on a downtown facade, then I think, okay, wait a minute, that needs, that's a lot more prominent. So those are my thoughts. Let's see, Mayor Peck.
Thank you. As I'm looking at these pictures, and I agree on commercial buildings or in downtown, it's a different thing than when it's in a residence. So as we learn from the information that we're going to get back, be prepared that if a house is not situated for solar and it's turned down because of where it's located, where's the equity if the neighbor is allowed to have solar because their house is situated differently on their lot? So I think before we get any said standards, or we need to think about that, could be a huge problem.
Okay, thank you. It's a fair point. I know that, you can still get a decent amount of return, even if it's not purely true south, but, I'm sure there are circumstances where heavily wooded, and I haven't really had a chance to go through these standards to see what they say about that sort of thing, but, does that seem like a reasonable proposal for staff to just kind of call? I mean, I know we're constantly trying to find things for you to do.
In my copious free time. There are a few different resources. It'd be easy enough to just clip these pages and have them, available. I can always, as an information item for next month's meeting, I can just include, the city of Denver has a pretty robust section of guidelines on their, for their solar panels, and in their case they do allow them on the street side in some cases, but the issue, their guidelines are that they not go all the way to the edge of the eave, they not have a really high projection, that they be a bit as flush as possible, and I think you're seeing now that there are a lot of roof systems that are almost completely flush. So I think you're going to start seeing just increasingly compatible products out there. But I can definitely include the Denver guidelines in the next packet.
I think that'd be worthwhile if you could do that and just cut out the few pages that are associated with solar to here, to where it's just a simple, makes it easier for us to just parse through some of the information. I think that would be really helpful and a worthwhile discussion. If Denver's got,
they've got a really
it's
nice,
worth looking
robust.
at.
They've got some really robust guidelines on for sustainability.
Great. Okay, so I don't think we need to vote on anything today. I mean, there's no motion that we need, but let's just continue that conversation. Any other comments on that particular issue? No? All right. Well, thank you for putting that together, and I agree it's worth getting in front of, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let's see. Then we have prior business. So a recap of the retreat.
That is something I'm really going to turn over to the commission to refer to. We had our retreat minutes in the packet as well. In terms of updates, the survey plan is in progress, so I should have some deliverables hopefully by the May meeting, or at least something in draft form. So that's, we're definitely making progress towards that for sure. So, and then we've got the proclamation going for Historic Preservation Month as well. So been in communication with our communications team. So for Preservation Month, if there are items you come across, particularly that are relevant to Longmont, if there are some events or something you're aware of, send them my way, and I will see if we can get them pushed out on social media as well to raise, keep the awareness going.
Okay, thank you. Any commissioners' comments? Yeah. Commissioner Barnard.
I'm not sure how much work this is, so I don't, want to be careful asking Jennifer about it, but I think it would be nice if we had some sort of a recap of a summary of the meeting. Now, I have some AI that can do that. If you want, I can send Jennifer an AI draft and she can look at it and then go from there. But I just think if we go back to the retreat, it takes about some time to go through it all. A lot of it's repetitive.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but I think if we had something where we'd have a page that we could refer back to every once in a while and just had the 1 or 2 page summary of what happened and what decisions were made, and also, in other words, what we're going forward on the survey, for instance, and then what things were put on, well, we're going to watch this, and then what things we just say deferred into some future time. I think that'd be a helpful document that we could use as a working document. But I don't know how, I know that staff is overwhelmed with what they have. So like, if you want, I'll be glad to process something and send it to staff.
I think we'll accept your volunteering.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, please send that my way, and I'll, take a look at it and massage it as necessary and include that with the May packet.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other comments on the retreat? No? Okay, thanks. I do appreciate you putting that together for us again, and I think it was a productive session. Okay, comments from any commissioners? Anybody have anything else they?
None.
None? Okay. I do have one that's just a reminder that I will actually not be here for the May session. I'm going to be in a place where things are actually really, really, really old. So hopefully
Where?
Rome.
Oh.
Just gonna say, he's going to Italy,
Yep. So Commissioner Norton, as Vice Chair, should be chairing the meeting. I'm happy to get with her in the meantime, before that, and I can reach out to her separately just to be sure that she's got everything she needs to run that meeting, but just a note of reminder. All right, thank you. Let's see. Mayor Peck, do you have any comments for us?
And to apologize for not being at the retreat. I planned on going, but life comes in and disrupts things, so I couldn't be there. And I'm very happy to read all of these minutes. It sounds like it was incredibly interesting. I also was called by Matthew Bennett for some comments on the Tower of Compassion, so who knows if he'll use them, but he called. And that's it. That's all I've got.
Okay, great. Thank you. We are at the end of our agenda, so I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, motion moved by Commissioner Sibley, seconded by Commissioner Fenster. All those in favor? Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.